Hey everyone, it's Louisa Munson from Feel Good Astrology, and thanks for joining me here today as I explore the astrology for May and the eclipse season, which is upon us. And also, let's not forget the fact that we've got Jupiter changing signs and also Mercury going retrograde. So it's a fun-filled month ahead for sure. So there's a couple of key themes that I see coming up through May, which I think are really pertinent to the summer. And this really links into the planet Uranus and also the North Node. Now, the North Node is that point in our chart that it really shows us the karmic path we're on and the karmic games that we're playing again and again and again, like the things that we're needing to learn, the things we're needing to get clear about in our lives, possibly the reason why we're here. It could also represent our purpose. And right now, the North Node, in particular with eclipse season, the North Nodes are always included in the eclipses. They're sort of tied into the eclipse, and that's for a whole other reason, which I'm not going to spend this video explaining. But the North Node and our collective karma comes into a greater observance during the time of the eclipses. And so we've got the solar eclipse, the partial solar eclipse, followed by the total lunar eclipse in the month of May. And it's setting the scene for a new kind of karma. It's setting the scene for our new next collective understanding of what's going on. I mean, it's kind of resetting where we're at. And I think that's kind of cool and exciting. So yes, we're going to explore that for sure. You know, what is the collective karma? Now, there's also Uranus. Now, Uranus is involved. Uranus is in a conjunction with the new moon and first eclipse. Uranus is in a conjunction with the full moon and the second eclipse in this month. Uranus is also later on this year, at the end of July, is in a conjunction with the North Node. So these two things are going hand in hand, and I see May setting up the new journey as we're heading towards quite a changing event at the end of July. Now, the Uranus North Node conjunction, I will be talking about this in other videos. I mentioned it in my overall year update, so you can check that out. My forecast for 2022, and it also comes up in my American forecast for 2022. But it's a big event. It happens every 15 years. And so what we're having in May is really the first couple of steps towards the big release of our karmic journey, the collective karmic journey that we're on right now. And I think there's going to be some shocks and surprises. Anyone that knows astrology will know that Uranus is the planet of shocks, surprises, changes, but also amazing synchronicity, the kind of group consciousness that occurs. It also does rule AI. And so there's all sorts of different things that could be coming up and possible timelines for us to follow. One that I definitely see is the connective and connected consciousness between people increasing. Uranus is known for originality and libertarianism, and also for going your own way and being absolutely steadfast in truth and authenticity. So one of the timelines I see going forward is that we have a radical shift on planet Earth where we really drill into what is important for us, and we start living our own narrative and stop following a really big groupthink. Now, of course, there is the exact and polar opposite opportunity coming up as well, because if Uranus also rules AI and Uranus is also about connectivity, there is also another plan afoot that those who are observant and looking at news and reading between the lines a little bit, and this has been coming on for a really long time, is the whole transhumanism agenda. So we've got, it almost looks like the bifurcation that so many speakers have been talking about over the years, like the bifurcation of Earth, where we are splitting on two different timelines. Funnily enough, I have a show being launched on actually the first of our May eclipses on the 30th of April with a wonderful speaker, Emily Elizabeth Cleland, and she's actually talking about the bifurcation and that we've got like an ascension and a descension pathway. I mean, one is assuming that, you know, we're going up and the other possibly down. There's so much that we can talk about right now. Astrologically, it all seems to be describing itself. So let's have a look at what's coming up for May. I'm going to bring up the charts now so you can have a look as I'm talking about them and get a real feel for how you might use that energy. I mean, I do these videos because I think each of these dates that I'm mentioning and sharing with you represents a point in time where you might want to sit down and connecting with the energy. And if you're the kind of person that likes to meditate and set some intentions, or somebody who likes to sing or pray or light a candle at a particular time in a sense of reverence and using that feeling of cosmic energy, then this is exactly what it's for. Use it for your own advantage, your best possible advantage, because these are life-changing times. They really, really are at the moment. So let's bring up our first chart now. So before I show you the actual chart itself, I just want to quickly show you how you can find out about the eclipses and more information about eclipses, because I think they're quite useful. I'm actually on a website called timeanddate.com/eclipse. If you go to the Sun and Moon tab and go to eclipses, it will bring up a list of all the upcoming eclipses, and these are the eclipses for 2022. There's only 3 this year. There's usually on average there's 4, sometimes there's 5. You usually find they go in partners, so you'll have the first eclipse at the time of a new or a full moon, and then the next eclipse will be at the next new or full moon. And so they complete on themselves. Now, our opener to May is actually on the 30th of April. It's a partial solar eclipse. And you get to see what it looks like near the maximum point. And it will calculate, and this site's great, you'll get to see where the path of totality is, where the shadow is on Earth. And this time, at the time of the eclipse, it's only really affecting South America and Antarctica, and you can see different views and stuff, and it'll also give you the time that it's happening according to where you are. I mean, this is a really handy little site. It's also got the moon phases if you want to check that out. That's also there. It's what I use. It's great because you can put in a different location and it will calculate the time of the full moon or new moon according to where you are. Now, if you're if you're working internationally, this is also awesome, and that's under time zones where it says International Meeting Planner. So you can go and pop in your time zone, the time zone of the person you want to connect with, and so on and so forth. So this is a great website. Now, the following eclipse we've got. The total lunar eclipse is on the 15th and 16th of May. The reason it's giving 2 dates is because obviously it's accounting for different time zones. And according to where you are, it'll either be on the 15th or the 16th. Now, this path of totality, you can see it's covering quite a big area. The main area is South America and also Central America. And it looks like a little bit of Canada as well. In fact, quite a lot of it is shadowed out. And also, you know, we are going to be affected where I am in Portugal, just here, and also the west coast of Africa. So you get to see, you know, the eclipse map and animation. The total lunar eclipse, this one's a blood moon, they tend to have a much bigger effect. If you think about it, if you stood around at the time of an eclipse, you'll probably have noticed that there's an eerie feeling wherever you are. You'll probably also notice that the birds or insects start acting or behaving slightly differently. There is a sense that something new is happening. And one of the things that I've always noticed at the times of eclipses is that if you are very intent on your focus, it almost feels like there's a creation energy, a bit like some people talk about 0 point energy, whereby the actual energy of pure creation is just there, like you could turn the tap on and kind of pour it into something that you want it all to go into. So I absolutely recommend at these times of really strong focused energy, you use it in a way that's going to work for you and work with your chart. So think about what you want to be manifesting. Now, what I'm going to do in the next few minutes is talk you through the 2 eclipses on the birth charts and give you a sense of what they're representing. So then you can sit and consider how do those charts relate to you. So let's bring on our first chart now. Okay, so our first chart is here, and this is the one for the 30th of April 2022 at 9:28 p.m. Now, what I'm going to draw your attention to here is we've got the sun, and there's the sun and the moon. They're both at 10 degrees 28 in the sign of Taurus. If you know your chart and you've got something important around between, say, 9 and 11 degrees in the sign of Taurus, then this is going to be a new moon stroke eclipse that could have really big, well, it can have a really big effect on how your life is. For instance, if it's taking place on your ascendant, it could really affect your body and how you, how you form boundaries, where you put your body, like where you're living, etc. If it's somewhere down here, if this is where the eclipse is in your chart, then it could really affect your home. If it's here right on your descendant, it really could affect the way your relationships are going and your relationship goals and so on and so forth. So wherever it's showing up in your chart is going to really influence what's going on. But here's the thing. This new moon, it's in the sign of Taurus. Taurus is all about our resources. It's all about our security and our safety. So we might want to consider what new starts can we have about our security and our safety. How happy are we with our finances? What have we done to ensure that we have enough money to be able to survive? What have we got in place? Because if this is in a very strong money area, this could also really impact you. It's also in a conjunction with Uranus. Now, Uranus here, you can see it's already advancing towards the North Node, which is here. So it's like we've got this conjunction and it's almost already connecting. It's almost like a daisy chain from the moon to the sun to Uranus and to the North Node. So we've got this future event in our sights, So you might want to be thinking around, how can I be secure in an unsecure world, or an insecure world, given that Uranus is there, and Uranus is about sudden surprises, changes, synchronicity, which is fun and exciting. But even exciting things can be destabilizing. So how can I feel resourced in a world that isn't very stable? How can I feel excited without collapsing under stress? All these kinds of changes are going to be quite big. Now, if, for instance, it's falling over the angle to do with partnerships, it could represent that your partner is who you found security with isn't looking as secure as they may once have. It could also represent that their money is changing, or the way they're earning money is changing. It could indicate all sorts of different things, given that we've got this link to money and security and partnership and also chaos. It could also be, though, that they have some inspiration and they have some really big need for change that is going to have a knock-on effect. And you can see how these work. So if I was in your shoes and your chart, I would sit down and think, what do I want to really focus on? What would I like to bring in that has to do with my resources and my security, but also my inspiration and my connection and my enjoyment and my purpose in life? If you're thinking about it from the terms of your ultimate purpose in life, you really can't go too far wrong, I don't think. Now, there's something else about the time of this eclipse that's also very special. And that is, we've got Venus here and Jupiter both almost exactly in the same place, like really close, 2756 and 2757, really close. Now, Venus and Jupiter are known as being the benefics. They are the beneficial planets. All the other planets, well, none of the other planets are considered benefic like Venus and Jupiter. They are seen as being planets that have extra luck. Now, Venus is about love, it's about good flow, it's about generosity, kindness, empathy, and it's about beauty and grace and kindness and diplomacy. Jupiter is about expansion. It is about our hopes and our dreams and our biggest and boldest expectations. And then they're both in a conjunction with Neptune, which is also a big dreamer. And if you've watched my previous shows, in particular from March into early April, you'll know that we've just had this really big dreamy conjunction between Neptune and Jupiter, really asking for us to get very soulful, really go inside, connected to divinity, the best divinity that we can connect to, and to be kind of contemplative and spiritual and really saying the more we can expand our heart, the better things go. So you might want to tie something about that in as well as your overall security. Now, when eclipses happen, they tend to create changes. So it's more likely that the well-created intentions that you have around the time of the eclipse and the things that you're moving towards will speed up and manifest in a much faster way. Many years ago, it feels like a different incarnation with my first partner. I remember there was a very big eclipse that came out during the day, and it actually turned where I was living dark. And my partner then and we went down to the beach to observe this eclipse. And I really wanted a house. We were wanting to buy a house. We hadn't had a mortgage approved or anything like that. And when you start your plans with an eclipse, they tend to flow from moon to moon to moon. And so I created this very strong intention in my mind about buying a house, and actually felt like we had the house and that we were very, very comfortable and very happy and everything. And the next new moon, we'd actually found the house we wanted to buy. The following new moon, we had our mortgage agreed, and so we got it round the wrong way, but thankfully the people we were buying from were fine with that. And then the third new moon, we actually moved. And so we started sowing that seed at the time of the eclipse, and 3 months later we'd moved house. I bought my first house. So, they are very, very powerful. Anything that you're doing at the time of the eclipse is going to be sort of magnetized and it's everything that you're wanting is going to be coming towards you. And so it's really important to be as clear and as discerning as you can be in your own chart. So let's have a look. Before the next, see, this is the other thing about this eclipse period, is there are two other things happening before the following eclipse. So we've got our first eclipse on the 30th of April. And then we've got our second eclipse on the 15th or 16th of May. But before then, we've got Mercury going retrograde on the 10th of May, 9th or 10th of May, 9th of May. Now, when Mercury goes retrograde, it gives us a chance to rethink what we've been, planning and stuff. And so it gives us a time to review, reimagine, re-envisage, and all that kind of jazz. Everything with a re in it. That's how I think of a retrograde. It starts with RE and it's rewinding. It's giving us a choice to relook at things. Now, not everyone likes Mercury retrograde because it shows things going sort of about face. It also isn't seen as being particularly lucky if you're going to form a formal agreement at the time when Mercury's retrograde, because it feels like you're building a castle on sand. It's not a stable footing. necessarily. I would say, unless you are born at the time when Mercury's retrograde, you probably better not to play around with anything too formal while Mercury is retrograde, because it's not really in your planetary coding. You don't have a sort of like cosmic understanding of it necessarily. Now, that's going to be retrograde until the 3rd of June. And it's taking Mercury from 4 degrees in the sign of Gemini to 26 degrees in the sign of Taurus. So if you've got anything between 26 degrees Taurus and the 4 Gemini, then that area of your life in your birth chart is going to be rewound. And that's true of everyone, even if you haven't got a planet there or an angle there. Wherever it's showing up in your chart is a place of rethinking, like you're rethinking how you're doing things. So it's really worth having a look at that. Then a day later, we've got Jupiter changing signs. Now, this is a big one. I'm gonna show you the chart of this one. So let's just bring on this chart. Hang on. So as Jupiter goes into the sign of Aries, he's in a lovely sextile with Pluto retrograde and also with Mercury retrograde. Now, both of these are in a trine as well. So there's a couple of things that we need to consider here. Now, first of all, when Jupiter goes into the sign of Aries, Jupiter is about dreaming, expansion, hope, and optimism. He's been in the sign of Pisces, where our dream and our intuition, our spiritual feelings, our philosophical feelings have been the things that have been expanded. As Jupiter goes into the sign of Aries, which is a very single-minded sign, and also a sign of taking the initiative, having courage, having conviction, not waiting for permission, literally, like doing and then seeking permission after, so if there is a problem, seeking forgiveness, but it's about taking action. So all of a sudden we're expanding into the energy of taking action based on the courage of our convictions. So this is a really big sort of step forwards. Now, this is happening whilst Pluto and Mercury are both retrograde and in a trine working together. It's interesting because Pluto, as I've explained a lot on this channel, Pluto represents control and also the dark and also transformation. So it represents our shadow self, the parts of us that we can't bear to even accept that we have. We all want control somewhere in our life. And there are some really awful things we would do to get control that a lot of us would be too ashamed to admit to. So Pluto offers us a look at our shame, where we blame others, where we feel guilty. Pluto is the gift that keeps on giving, for sure. Now, in a real world sense, Pluto also represents control measures. And if you think about it, these last 2 years, it's interesting. I've been saying this to quite a few people. Before the COVID pandemic, a lot of astrologers were wondering what the heck was going to happen come January, like December, January, between 2019, 2020, because we had Pluto here and we had Saturn and Jupiter, all three of them in the same place. And that's such a rare thing. Like the previous time it happened in that place was over 3,000 years ago. It's a really, really long, slow forming aspect. And it shows a kind of really strong superpower. That's Pluto. With Saturn, with lots of soldiers and law keepers and middlemen that want to kind of govern others. Saturn is a bit of a head boy, or a head girl. It's a super snitch. Saturn has some great characteristics. It can show responsibility, but it can also show people being cruel with their responsibility. And then Jupiter shows things going crazy and things being amplified and expanded, because that's what Jupiter does. So if you think definite control, lots of simpering people wanting to control and get involved, and also lots of people wanting to be responsible, and then also Jupiter, the idea of something spreading fast and having maximum effect. Seeing all three of those in the sign of Capricorn, which is about big business, most astrologers were thinking before the pandemic happened that there would be some kind of government takeover or one world view, something that was all encompassing, that would take out sovereign independence. It would take out any individuality. It would wipe clean everything, have everything at the same level, and almost like disinfect everything and put in a permanent control. When we saw that, when most astrologers, I had lots of conversations around Christmas time of 2019 with astrologers, other professional astrologers, and really what we saw was this kind of Darth Vader energy coming in. And of course, when the pandemic was announced, we all realized, okay, well, Pluto also represents death, Jupiter represents the masses, and Saturn represents control measures. And so what's happened, is we've had this idea that the control measures have come in because of a pandemic. But actually, if you go back to before we knew it's a pandemic, all we saw, rather than an illness, is we saw the mechanisms for mass control. Now, what's happening when Mercury's retrograde and as Jupiter's going into a place of sovereignty, where we, the masses, are taking more responsibility for ourselves, it's showing that Pluto here is retrograde, so the control is waning and it's changing. And Mercury's retrograde, the laws, the words, the deeds, the actions, the trades between countries, the travel, also the things that are being bought and sold are also represented by Mercury. Mercury represents the markets. Mercury also represents chitter chatter between people. All of that is being, I don't want to say revoked, but it's going, it's been rethought, reevaluated. So it really wouldn't surprise me if, as Mercury goes retrograde and then Jupiter goes into the sign of Aries the next day, which is in between these two big eclipses, it wouldn't surprise me if there is either a very controlled communication that is rolled out, or that all communication that has been rolled out is kind of rolled back in. It feels like there is something being reviewed and changed really fundamentally. And it's happening whilst people are coming more into their own powers. Now, I like to sit in between worlds, not actual, like Earth and somewhere else necessarily, but I kind of sit on the fence in between a lot of things, not because I'm a fence sitter. I do have my own views, but because I like to listen to all sides of a story before making up my mind, as best I can as a human being, because let's face it, we are all meaning-making machines, and we all do have our own biases. But, there's talk of, what would happen if the internet's got taken over. And in the last few days, Twitter has been bought out by Elon Musk, or this is what we've been told. He's threatening to buy Facebook, which I think, frankly, is kind of interesting. As a curious person, I find all this kind of interesting to see what happens, because if you think Mercury also represents speech and our communications, they've been controlled a lot in this last 2 years. Anyone that's had a different opinion according to what the media has had, and this also represents the media, by the way, then we've been shut up or censored or kicked out or cancelled. So there is something about speech and communication, media, the news, all of that information is changing in quite a drastic and deliberate way during this time. And it's synchronized with Jupiter going into the sign of Aries. Now, like I said, Jupiter's only going into Aries until the 28th of October, and then not going back into Aries until the 20th of December. So I see we're going to make some strides coming forwards as individuals. And then we get to really practice it from just before Christmas, just before the winter solstice. So yeah, this is important. Now let's move on to the last bit, which is the full moon, which is also our last eclipse in this very short eclipse season. Now, what I notice here is that you see all these blue lines? These are showing where the planets are working really beautifully in a great alignment. So we've got the sun here in a conjunction with the North Node. So this is like our ego is in alignment with our purpose. And Uranus and the North Node are even closer now, showing that they're coming into their alignment of a shocking awakening of our true purpose. So this is what this is about. And with the moon in the sign of Scorpio, it's showing a lot of shock and also pride and a lot of things coming up for people. The full moon does raise the tensions in people because we realize where we might not have been true to ourselves. And unfortunately, it tends to get triggered in people and we go a bit crazy. So, there's a lot coming up for us around, I think it's the 16th in the UK and the 15th, if you're, say, in America. Now, at the same time as it's happening, the Sun and Uranus are also beautifully aligned to Neptune. Now, here's where it gets a bit eggy. Neptune and Mars are also in a conjunction. Now, Mars is about taking action. Mars is ruled, funnily enough, by Aries, which is where Jupiter is. So we've got this planet here, Mars, which is about taking action in a conjunction with Neptune. Now, Neptune represents things that deceive us. It represents entertainment, music, the arts. It also represents lies. It also represents the sex industry, drugs, alcohol. It also represents everything that's seedy. It also represents everything that is high. I mean, it's kind of like I think of it as a spectrum of creativity. At the top, it represents unconditional love and healing and connection, where we connect in consciousness because we're so full of love. And its lowest vibration, it is connecting us to the worst kind of creativity possible, which is actual destruction. And it shows where we kind of die to ourselves, like not in a good way, but where we can't bear to be ourselves. And so we do things to help us forget who we are. So Neptune's an interesting one. It's been playing out a lot since it's been in the sign of Pisces. It's sort of made a change to social media, how we view music and what's subliminal. The sign of Pisces and Neptune are all about subliminals as well. What's going on behind the scenes? I mean, if you think about it, this last month, we've learned a lot of stuff about Disney. I mean, lots of people have known about this for a long time, but it's starting to only come out in the media now. So what I'm seeing here on the 16th of May is that there's a big old ruckus in the media. There's something really big coming up for social media and the media, as Mars is coming into this alignment and connecting beautifully with the Sun and our thing here for purpose, the North Node. To me, it's indicating that, like, the media has got the all clear to come out and reveal itself or to own up to lies. It's already been caught out with its hand in the cookie jar. Things like Russian disinformation has now been, oh, sorry, says the Washington Post. Oh, no, we were wrong. They haven't been that vocal in how wrong they were. CNN has also said, oh, yes, sorry, we made a mistake there. Now, there's all these stories that are coming out now where we're realizing people have been covering up for other people. So what's going on? Is there a big boys club or something? Who knows? Anyway, it's also connecting beautifully to Pluto. So we've got the moon, the sun, the North Node. So that's our emotions, our ego, our purpose, our karma. Also our creativity, our drive. And now it's connecting to Pluto, our understanding of our shadow self, the darkness, and our need to transform. So what I'm seeing is what's happened in this time of eclipse season, and with us coming into this place of being sovereign and standing up in integrity and being the courage of our convictions, is we're getting ready to transform. We're learning about things that are going on around us and have been going on around us, and we've been unconscious to them largely. And now we're no longer unconscious, not completely unconscious. We are starting to get conscious that things around us haven't been as we thought they've been. And so it's kind of shocking. Now, the last thing that I want to really point out, there's a couple more things. So second to last thing is that we got Saturn, which is the controlling powers. So like Pluto represents like Darth Vader, but Saturn here would be all of his soldiers, stormtroopers. Are they called? I don't even know what they're called. But those figures in white. Which, by the way, if you've tuned into what's going on in China at the moment, you might see that there are loads of forces running around there in white suits looking like stormtroopers. But anyway, I digress. Again, the media hasn't been that forthcoming in releasing these images, but these images have been going around for the last month. Something big is going on over there as well. That's another story. Anyway, Saturn showing the things that control us and help to define the narrative that we think exists is completely stressed out between our emotions that are rising. Our instincts, our intuition are all rising in us. Our personalities, we might have been shut off before, but now we're ready for some transformation, please. I might be a bit challenging to those authorities trying to tell me something. And then my sense of purpose and my sense of knowing and that sense of where am I going? So all of a sudden, anyone in a position of authority that has been lording it over other people, not necessarily for the good of the people, but we all know who we are. I mean, we've all had a job in our past, even as a milk monitor or like cup collector at infant school or something. There will be times when we've enjoyed having a bit of power. What I'm talking about is the people who have been doing something not just for the good of people, but for the sake of enjoying their power. They're going to get very uncomfortable in this time. And we might need to look inside ourselves. Where have we been powerful? Where have we been lording our power over other people unnecessarily? Where have we been playing ego tricks? Because this is all coming up. Now, the last thing I want to mention, and this is also, I think, determining what's going on, is we've got this little character here that looks like a key. That's Chiron. And Chiron is in a conjunction with Venus. Again, I say Venus is the planet of love and sharing and compassion. She's a benefic. She's seen as beneficial. And Chiron is the wounded healer. This represents our childhood wounds. So as this is coming in at the second eclipse on the 15th and 16th of May, we are being assisted to heal and purge our childhood wounds. We are given what we need to be able to let go of what we've been holding on to. So I see this as a very, very powerful time. Now, I'm going to leave that there for today because I'm going to be talking much more about the Uranus and North Node conjunction later on this year at the end of July. But that's just to keep you going through May. So ultimately, my highlight is, it starts on the 30th of April, really, with the first eclipse. Get ready. Think about your sovereignty and how you are secure in yourself. And if you know your chart, look at where it's falling in your chart. Anyone that is aware of their chart, look at where the sign of Taurus is, look at where Uranus is right now. This is where the change is taking place for you. So like, how are you evolving? Like mine is coming in my 7th house. So, just to share a little bit with you. So this is happening in my 7th house. My 7th house is about the people I have relationships with. So all the change that's been going on for me over the last year and definitely in this month is in the realm of relationships. So it's my husband, my children, my parents, my friends, my clients. Everyone that comes into my world is helping to inform me and also shift me. Everything I see in them, I'm just projecting onto them. But look at where it is in your chart. If Taurus is in your 9th house, you're going to be transformed by thinking outside of the narrative you've been like conditioned and born into. You're going to be wanting to go on a great adventure. If it's in the 11th house, you're going to want to collaborate with other people. If it's in your 2nd house, it's all on, your earnings and what you can pull out of life. So, this really does get tailored around your own birth chart. So really think 30th is the starting point. Then the 10th and 11th, don't plan any big things on the 10th and 11th. Take time for yourself around those times, because this is a huge time for us to dream really big and re-envision our future. And then the 16th of May, boy, are we up for some change. If anything goes down during this time, I would say our view of the media and the internet and how it functions is going to be transformed. So yeah, I'm kind of interested. I see this as the gateway to what's coming up at the end of July. And like I said right at the start, I really think by the 20th of December, which just happens to be my birthday as well, the 20th of December is when things really start to move forwards again. Anyway, lots and lots of love to you. If you enjoyed this, then please do share. And if you haven't yet subscribed, please do subscribe. And also let me know what you want to know about, and I'll happily record something. Anyway, take care. Bye for now. Mwah.